is Understand the Times, a radio program dedicated to equipping the church with biblical insights for contemporary issues. As an author and lecturer, Roger Oakland speaks internationally on a wide variety of topics. Roger helps us understand and analyze past events, today's headlines, and even things yet to take place. Now, to help us understand the times, here's Roger.
Let's pray. Lord, pray that you would help us to do this program in a way that's glorifying to you, and to present information that will be useful and interesting to the people that will listen, and to help us to communicate what's happening here in Chile and what's happening in other parts of the world as we share in ministry together to try to share the gospel. In Jesus' name. Amen. Welcome to Understand the Times. Today's book comes from Santiago, Chile, and I have as my guest back in the United States in Indiana, one of our board members for Understand the Times, Tom Worthington. Tom, tell us a little bit about your ministry and how you ended up in Indiana when I met you in Southern California.
Yeah, great, Roger. It's good to be with you here today, and the Lord is good, and as you know, I was trained as a veterinarian here actually in Indiana. I grew up here in Indiana and practiced veterinary medicine in the dairy industry in Southern California for almost 25 years, and that's where I met you there as we ministered together, and then in many places around the world. So about 10 years ago now, the Lord, as I was on a mission trip actually in Germany, the Lord just spoke to me clearly that it was time for me to head back to the Midwest, and so we planted a church here. Actually, I'm sitting in my living room. This is where we started it, a home fellowship 10 years ago, and now we have a little storefront, so we're in full-time ministry back here in Indiana. Calvary Mission Outreach is the name of our fellowship because that's the heart that the Lord has given us to do mission work and to do outreach. So we've had the great privilege to be around the world, several places with you, Roger, spreading the gospel, touching the lives of people, because, man, the time is short. We are in the end times, and as you and I have both seen, Roger, that especially in Asia, but outside of the U.S., the harvest field is so plentiful. The U.S. is very much post-Christian, I would say. Not so much interested anymore, even though there's a lot of ripe fields here, but man, we sure see it in the international field, and especially in Asia.
Speaking of Asia, I believe that was actually the first contact that I had with you. It was on a missions trip with the Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. We were in Macau, and I recall taking the ferry back from Macau to Hong Kong. And all of us were excited about that trip, but the Lord seemed to be speaking through individuals with regards to a vision for missions. And that's when I understood that your heart was really in missions and taking the gospel around the world, which was exactly where I've been focused for a number of years. So that's why we became good friends, and years we've traveled quite a bit together to other places to share the gospel.
Yeah, we have. And, one of the times I remember, Roger, on that first trip where we met there in Macau, and then on our way back, we stopped in Hong Kong and went up to Victoria Peak there on Hong Kong Island. I remember standing there with you talking about just the state of the world and the state of missions and the church, standing there looking over Kowloon there in Hong Kong, and you're right. The Lord really opened the door there for us, and we've been in several places: Philippines, Myanmar, Kenya. It's been a great pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to more things. In fact, just yesterday, hopefully those flights will work. Roger, you and I are planning to go to India. We've been there for several years, so they've been anxious to have you come for quite some time. So hopefully in January we'll be there together.
Well, it's totally exciting. Speaking of looking over a city and sensing the great need for the gospel, last night Myrna and I were invited to go out to meet with some brothers from the organization that's putting on this conference, and we had dinner with them and their wives. On the way back, we were rather high up in one of the mountains or the hills, and I looked down over the city of Santiago, saw all of the lights, and a strange feeling came over me like, Lord, why do you have me here in the midst of, well, all of these people, which the vast majority of them are in darkness. There might be light out there, physical light from the lights of the city, but essentially the spiritual darkness. There's a huge void. And that's what we had discussed together. These guys that are setting up the conference, they can't find a speaker here in South America that will come and address the apostasy which they're having to deal with.
Yeah, those kind of things really shouldn't surprise us because the Lord told us in the end times there's going to be a great falling away, and we certainly see that in the West and in the U.S. And as we travel around the world, we see that unfortunately the U.S., America, has done a great job of exporting apostasy and seeker-friendly and non-biblical so-called Christianity around the world.
Yeah, this is, I've been asking questions. I start tonight as the first session, and then we'll speak 4 more times. So I'm trying to get the spiritual lay of the land, and what I'm discovering, it's no different than anywhere else. Although the evangelical church here is visible, it has blended now with Roman Catholicism and become totally ecumenical. As well, you see people are studying a book rather than the book, and it's hard to comprehend, but the number of churches, and we're talking mainline churches like Missionary Alliance and others that are here, they have followed the church growth model that's promoted by Rick Warren and others. So these groups of people that want to hear the Bible, they're very frustrated. One lady, she went to her pastor because they were just teaching from a book, Purpose-Driven Life, and she said, why has it changed? I mean, I came here I want to hear from Jesus Christ and His Word. I don't want to hear from some man. And they said, look, if you don't like it, then find another church. And so that's what happened. She had to leave.
Yeah, and there's such a tremendous pressure today. We've incorporated the church. We've made it into a business in a sense, and there's such pressure to support the buildings, the staff, all the things that are going on in a church that you can understand from a human point of view why pastors do that kind of thing, because they want to do what attracts people, and we've fallen into that trap of doing things that attract people so we can support the thing we built rather than simply teaching the Word of God simply and letting God deal with that. And it can be a really tough thing. It can be a really hard choice to make, and part of it is the reality of what we've made churches today with the giant buildings we built, the giant staffs we've built, and just an incredible amount of money that we pour into those things rather than pouring into doing what Jesus said, which is make disciples, which really is a very simple thing to do. It's being out with people, it's living with people, it's doing ministry with people. And, oftentimes as we go to these places that don't have the resources we have, that's what they're doing because they don't have any other choice.
Tom, talking about making disciples, you're an intricate part of Bryce Homes International. One of the major objectives that we have is not just to be involved in humanitarian assistance to unfortunate families, but to work with our leaders who are Christian pastors so that they will train up these children and adults in a discipleship program so they can reach their nations. Tell our listeners what we're working towards, for example, in the country of Myanmar.
Yeah, Myanmar is a very exciting place. It's a place that I think it's close to 10 years now that I've been going there with you, Roger, and just to see the growth there in the people. We've got some really solid men of God there who are committed to the Bible, who are committed to walking out the Bible in their own lives and then teaching that to others, and doing it by raising up those younger in the faith to be that same thing, to raise up others, 2 Timothy 2:2. That's the model that's there. And we've tried many different things there. Some have been very successful. Some have turned into things that they weren't supposed to be, as we again catch the corporate or the world model of education. But, one of the things, Roger, I'm excited about in Myanmar is some of these young guys that have been with the 2 main guys there, Elisha and Habakkuk, for many years. Now they've branched out. They've moved back into their villages, and they've started churches, and they're discipling others. They're bringing kids into their homes that are destitute and don't have any hope, and giving them the real hope of Jesus along with the hope of learning how to be good citizens. And also there's several students that have gone through the Bryce Home that are now in higher education, and educating them to making can often be the most effective, because especially in a place like Myanmar, which is very Buddhist, very, very dark, many people won't even come near to a church or a Christian organization, but in the workplace, they'll see people who are living out their faith, living out the joy of Jesus.
Well, it's exciting, especially this past week. They sent us a photograph of a board meeting that they had, and they brought in several of our Bryce Homes representatives in various parts of Myanmar, sat around a table and discussed the future. So now I think they have the same vision that we do, that this isn't a program where they just sit around and wait for us to supply their needs. They want to get out there and meet the needs of the lost, especially the Buddhist community, and share the gospel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just really blessed by the things they were talking about there, as far as what their goal is, what their heart is. And it's just completely biblical. They've not fallen into that trap of going the ways of men and the ways of the world to build a kingdom, but rather to build the kingdom of Jesus Christ. And we have an amazing owner's manual, the Bible, and these guys are committed to that model, like Jesus did, is hanging out with guys, living with them, taking them. And these guys are real outreach oriented. I remember Pan, which is where they met there, Roger. Just these bamboo huts on stilts and nothing there. And that's where they've chosen to minister, because that's where the need is. That's where the open hearts are. So they really have that heart of Jesus, to go love the lost and love those who are hopeless and give them the real hope of Jesus.
Well, you've been with me to several places. As mentioned, we'll be going for at least my first time to India, and I'm looking forward to that. But another one of the countries where the program has been established, where you have visited, is Kenya.
Yeah.
Share your comments on Kenya and the Bryce Homes program there.
Yeah, Kenya, man. It's one of those places, Roger, I'm really looking forward to going back again sometime. Just met some, again, wonderful men of God. And, Roger, one of the things that I love about the mission field is I think of guys there like Achilla and Walter and those guys. You meet these guys, totally different culture and a totally different way of living, and they're immediately like brothers to you because of our relationship with the Lord. Nelson and Washington, the young man, and Lucio and these guys just loving the Lord and willing to really lay down their lives for whatever the Lord has in store there. And then seeing the incredible things that can happen when the people who have the resources, us in the West, will share some of those resources there. We laugh about the latrine ministry, but man, to see out in the boonies, literally, these widows who had nothing, to have a home built for $2,000 or $3,000, and then with it an actual latrine that gives them sanitation and some dignity, and what a huge impact not only it makes in their lives, but then their neighbors are wondering, why do you have this? And they become the evangelists. They become the disciple makers, not telling people how to get a new house and a new latrine, but how to find the joy of the Lord because of what the Lord supplies, because of his love, because he is the great supplier. He is the provider.
Well, it has gone without the country of Kenya. The politicians are now making observation because they see the difference. And they know that we're there because we care for the people, but we also want to help them to support themselves, not just throw money at them so that, they've got everything they need from another source. We have been working towards self-sufficiency. And this is the exciting thing in Kenya, is that a lot of the widows that were hopeless when we started now have established their own incomes through, various kinds of businesses that they've set up with a small amount of money. And a couple of the widows actually who had some property that just was there, the land had not been even broken. They were able to till the land and grow corn and to grow cucumbers and tomatoes and hire other widows to help them. So the program really is working. It's far beyond anything that I ever expected, and we'd like to see the whole model translated to other countries because we want to raise up people who love the Lord, but who have a desire to look after themselves and make make the country a different country based on the love of Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that's amazing, Roger. As you said, we didn't go in there. You didn't go in there with some great plan on here's how it's going to work, but rather the Lord just opened doors that you walk through and open the doors to others to help with that. And to see the government there saying, you know what, we can't figure this out, but you guys have. And of course, the answer is no. You understand the Times hasn't figured out anything. God has done it. God has opened the doors, and He's put these things in place because, again, this is the biblical model of how things work. And in the same aspect, they're working with some of these folks like Lucio, who has some real good education, but also wants to work in the Christian realm, in the biblical realm of raising up people to be successful. And again, the same aspect of being disciple makers and understanding that disciple makers are not only those who come to know the Lord and live it out and teach others to do that, but teach others how to be successful in the world, because that success gets people's attention and gives them the opportunity to share the love and the hope of Jesus Christ, the good news. And that's living it out, living out the faith. And that's such an effective tool to really spread the good news of Jesus Christ, is by living it.
Something that we've observed in Kenya, and I won't mention the name of the actual location because, there's reasons that we actually don't want people around the world to know where our homes are concentrated. But we are actually seeing an entire community transformed, becoming Christian. We were able to establish, first of all, started out with five Bryce homes, and these widows made such a difference in the community. Other families and widows said, so wow, how do we become like that? And they started meeting together, having services. Some of our pastors would meet with them once a week, and it got to the point they needed a full-time pastor, and we brought a full-time pastor through the community. And then we built a church. And last March, when Kevin, myself, who's another one of my board members in Canada, he went with me, and we were in this location, and we dedicated over 25 children to the Lord and then baptized at least that many in the river. The political leaders from the area were there, and they were just absolutely amazed at what God has done. Is many of the people who were drunkards in cults and taking drugs now have come into the Christian faith, and they've made such a difference that the whole area is talking about this location of what God has done in Kenya.
Yeah, Roger, I'll never forget that. In what year was that? I think 2015, maybe, that you and I were there, and all that was there was poles and a roof for the church building, but that place was just packed out. And I'll never forget that local official coming there and saying that this town, this village has been changed. Like you said, we had all these drunkards and drug problems. We had promiscuous sexuality going on all over the place, girls getting pregnant out of wedlock. He says, that's all gone. It's changed. And it's because of not some program, but it's because of the love, the biblical model that Jesus Christ has left us. And again, you see government officials recognizing that and saying, we need to spread this around. And man, that just gives great hope, especially a nation like Kenya, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is considered about 85% Christian. But again, much of that Christianity is not true biblical Christianity. It's cultural Christianity, and it doesn't really follow the biblical model of living it out according to the way God has it in plan for us.
Well, we have seen some amazing changes there, and we pray that the Lord will continue to bless that and other places. So tell me, when you soon headed to India, my first time, you've been there a number of times, what will we be doing when we're in India?
Oh, Roger, I'm really excited to have you come to India for many reasons. We've been working there since 2005, and again, we have some local guys there who are well-trained theologically, who, again, love the Lord, love to live it out, and these folks here are just servants. It's almost embarrassing how they serve us and care for us. I often say I want to bring you guys home to train the church in America how to be servants. But we'll be doing two main things. We'll be doing a conference there because many of the pastors there are not well trained at all, biblically speaking. So we'll be speaking to them about the Bible. Our emphasis this time will be on both creation and prophecy, which go hand in hand, especially in the world times that we're living right now. And then also that really an opportunity to minister to the children there. We started what we call the Real Hope Kids, which is an after-school program that are meeting in 4 different homes right now, about 8 or 10, 12 kids in each home that come after school, get homework help, learn about Jesus, the Bible. It's kind of like a VBS every day kind of thing, and then also get a hot meal every day. And these are slum kids that live in just incredible poverty. I mean, the places that you'll see where they live, we wouldn't have our dogs or animals live in. But they've been given the hope of Jesus, and they've been taught how to pray. These are kids who actually do pray for their daily bread, because many of their dads are day laborers. They make maybe $2 a day if they work, and too many of them, before they even get home, they might drink $1 or $1.50 of that money up before they get home. So a great opportunity there to show them the love of Jesus. And because of that, the churches have grown, because the families have seen, again, the hope of living out the Christian life the way God intended it here. So it's the hope of heaven, and it's the hope of the kingdom here on earth being lived out in a real palpable way that people can see it and, again, get benefit here from it. Also knowing that truly their sins are forgiven, the difficulties of life are dealt with by God, bringing them through it. So just incredible opportunities in a land that is only about 2% Christian and is also under intense persecution by the Christians. But with God, all things are possible, and the Lord just continues to open up big doors for us there in India.
So how did you go to India on the first time? What was your invitation?
Actually, the first time I went was the year before we moved here. I was actually part of preparing teams from Calvary Chino Hills to go, and there was a couple of short-term missionaries that were there at a deaf school in India, and I was helping prepare a team to go, and then all of a sudden God decided to send me on that team to minister there. So that's where we met Pastor John there as we were ministering there. He was just finishing up in seminary there. And then we really found ourselves like-minded with him and his heart to be an evangelist, to be a disciple maker. So we partnered with him. And then shortly after we moved back here to Indiana, we let him know we'd like to come and visit and just see how things are going there in India and get a lay of where he was and stuff. And so he had us come there, and unbeknownst to us, he planned this big old pastors conference. Now here I was, only hardly even a year as being a pastor, not really knowing what I was doing, and I was in India doing a pastors conference for about 150 people. So
yeah, I remember
the Lord is He's a crazy God. He really gives us crazy opportunities. So again, just teaching me that there are all those things that I cannot do, but as long as I'm a willing servant, He'll do amazing things through us. So that's how we got to know John, and then through that we saw the incredible need there. We actually did an outreach right in the slum area, and said, man, we've got to do something. We've got to help these, and realizing that we could throw money at that slum till kingdom comes and only make a small effect. So it's got to be much more than throwing money at it. It's got to be truly loving on people. So that's how, because of the locals, they said, we can bring these kids after school, because many of them, it costs $1 or $2 to go to school. They can't even afford that. So we could pay for them to go to school, buy them school supplies, and then after school we can help them learn about school. And as they learn about school, we can teach them about Jesus. These kids, Roger, you're going to love the way they pray, the way they worship, and just the way they love on Jesus. So that was the beginning of just an amazing opportunity. And then a few years ago, we got some property with them outside of town in a small village. And Hubli, the town, actually has several churches in it. But the church plant that was outside of this town was the first new church plant in 125 years. So they fall and pray to the same thing we have. There are a lot of mainstream churches there. and they've been satisfied to stay within their walls. So we're really excited out in this Hindu community how John and Marilyn and their family have made a real effect on these people because of the way they live their lives and the way they love on those with the love of Jesus.
So tell me, do they face outside opposition because they're Christians and there's Hindus all around them? Do they have any thing that tries to suppress their faith?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there. A few years back, they were meeting in a place there in the town, and some Hindu nationalists, which are really as much nationalists as they are Hindu. It's not so much religion, but they hate anything. They consider Christianity a Western religion, which is kind of funny because it's not at all. But they came into the church. They literally tore the doors off, threw them in the street, tore all the electric out of the building, the lights and everything, threw it out in the streets. The sweet part is that Pastor John, and the elders found out who it was, and they went and said, what have we done? How have we hurt you? And really came with a humble heart, and ended up that many of those involved in that apologized. One of them even started coming to church. So there's active persecution there. Here just recently, some came against Pastor John legally and made some unjust accusations about some of the property that they own and some false loans and all those kind of things. And it was just, in fact, that's part of the reasons that we've been delayed getting there because of the persecution going on. But God is so good. He just totally took that away. Turns out that they were doing this to other folks that were not Christians, and those other folks went to the legal system and got those things taken care of. So Pastor John, and those didn't have to lift a finger. God totally was their defense and removed that. But it is an ongoing thing there, and it's very real. So that's one of the things that we do when we go there is, we put ourselves at their disposal and say, look, we don't want to do something that's going to cause you any kind of problems. But they're bold in their faith. They're not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, and they're not afraid. They know that God is their defense.
So one of the reasons we're going is we're going to be speaking at a conference. I think it's going to deal with sort of a biblical perspective, Genesis through to Revelation, also emphasizing the importance of Israel. Bradley Antolovich from Switzerland, Jerusalem, will accompany us, and you and he and myself, I guess, will participate. The other thing, I would like to scout the land to see if there's a potential to maybe establish one or two Bryce homes and extend our boundaries to India. But of course, that's with the leading of the Lord.
Right, yes, and there definitely are opportunities there for that very thing, and we've been talking to the locals about that. They're very excited. They love to do the hands-on ministry with the kids to help those in need, and most of all, to see them grow in their faith. And just talking to John yesterday, Roger, very exciting. Not only do they want to do the conference, but in fact, they've arranged it in such a way that the local pastors are saying, we want these guys to come into our churches so we can spread out throughout the area more and reach more people. So several of the evenings will probably be splitting up and going to different places so that we can be more effective and reach more people with the message and the hope of Jesus Christ. So they're very excited about us coming and teaching them from the Bible and training them up. So I just think God's going to do an amazing thing here next January.
I've traveled to a lot of countries. I quit adding them up, but it's well over 70. I've never been to India. So a number of years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I kind of laugh about it now. And it was like I had a dream, and it was the dream was somebody from India calling me, Raja, you must come to India. Next morning, I got up and I was telling my wife, I had a dream last night, and I heard my name being called in the dream. I'm supposed to go to India, and I said, I don't know if I want to go to India or not. It's all those years. It's at least 15 years ago that that dream happened, and so this will be the fulfillment. So there was some opposition. I'm sure we were going to go a few other times, and that didn't happen. But the Lord willing, we will be going this time. Now, before we close the program, I want to talk a little bit about Understand the Times Radio. This is a new venture for Understand the Times, and probably without Pastor Chick Chikelis in St. Paul, it wouldn't have happened, but he encouraged me for some years. He said, Roger, you need to establish a radio station on the internet. And so we are working on that as we speak. It'll be a few weeks yet, but number of pastors, well, some have passed away. For example, Chuck Smith, he will be one of our pastor teachers, both Old Testament, New Testament. J. Vernon McGee. We're going to have Xavier Reese, Chick Chikelis, and we will also have Chris Quintana. And down the road, I want to have your program put on. We're going to have Understand the Times. We're going to have some teaching, short radio programs, 4-minute programs. And also, when we're traveling, we'll be able to record programs, for example, in India with the missionaries that we meet, and we'll be able to tell people about Understand the Times and the Bryce Holmes program in other countries. So this is, I think, one of the greatest ventures that we've ever been involved in, and at this stage of my life, I am very, very excited.
Well, it's amazing, Roger. Even now, here I am sitting in my living room in Crown Point, Indiana. You're there in Santiago, Chile. The technology is incredible, and we can broadcast this literally throughout the world, and in most places of the world, over their just little flip phone cell phones can pick this stuff up, and they can listen in. And so it's an incredibly powerful tool to, again, equip the saints. And again, in India, one of the reasons we love to go there, we've done a lot of outreach, but we always make sure that we spend time equipping and discipling the pastors, because they're hungry to really know the Word, first of all, and to know how to teach the Word. So incredibly powerful tool to spread the gospel throughout the world.
Well, think of all of our young men in Myanmar that will be able to listen to good Bible teaching. Same in Kenya. So it's going to be literally like a Bible school on the internet, because they'll be able to listen to the teaching on their cell phones. And
absolutely.
It doesn't take that much bandwidth, so it's very affordable.
Right. Yeah, just the other day someone asked me, about seminary. Did you go to seminary? It's like, well, not exactly. I sat under a teacher who taught the Bible for 10 years, and that's better than any seminary, because it's all Bible. It's not the ways of men. It's all the ways of God.
Yes. Well, that's the way I think needs to happen. Well, I will mention today is Thanksgiving in the United States, not in Chile, and we're kind of sorry we can't be back there with our family and participating, but and I know that your Thanksgiving turkey's probably in the oven, so thank you for taking time this will be, of course, pre-recorded, and we're going to play it at another time, but looking forward to when I get back talking to you about India, and we'll be packing our suitcases, getting ready. Oh, by the way, before I go to India, I have a trip to the Philippines, and we've been together at the Philippines before. Thanks for being with us today, and for now, this has been Understand the Times. Thank you for joining us.
Please visit www.understandthetimes.org for more information, to order materials, or to contact the ministry. Sign up for our free newsletter, news alerts and commentaries. You can also contact us by telephone toll-free at 1-800-689-1888. That's 1-800-689-1888.